Okay, we're going to have a look at the charge phase next, which takes place after the shooting phase. First thing you do is choose a unit that you want to charge. That's the charging unit. Then you decide whether it can actually charge. Mostly you can normally, but not if you're disordered and not if you've performed a shoot action in the previous shoot phase, and not if you've already been charged because you're assumed to be in combat already. You choose one of your companies as your spearhead. Now that's usually going to be in the front rank, but it could be in the rear rank or something, depending on who you're charging, what the tactical situation is. You're not forced to use any particular company in your formation as your spearhead. Next thing you do is you pick a target. Now the target's got to be in an achievable range, because what you're going to do is you roll for your charge distance, and you've got this little table here that shows you how many inches you get as a result of your charge. So there's no point picking a spearhead and a target formation which is, say for infantry, more than 8 inches away. It's just wasted if you do that. So what you do is you then roll your dice and have a look what you get. Now if you roll a 6, you get an unstoppable charge, which means that you get a bonus in the fight phase. If you roll a 1, you get a stalled charge, and that means you don't move at all in your charge phase. You've lost your charge completely. Next thing you do is move your spearhead towards your target formation. Now, so long as any company, any point of a base of any company that's within your charge range of your spearhead is reachable, the charge will go in. So if you look at this particular diagram here, even though your charging formation has only just clipped the top left hand corner of the charge formation, what happens is the charge formation is forced to come into line with the attacking formation on a pivot like that. One thing to remember, if you're charging through difficult terrain, it costs double movement as it does normal movement through difficult terrain. As soon as your spearhead unit is in contact, you then move the rest of your remaining companies. Yet again, you can end up moving slightly more than you would do, but you can just brings you into line with your spearhead. When I say that, you can actually, what you do when you're finishing your charge, you arrange your companies in a legal configuration, which we've already discussed, around the spearhead. The remaining companies may move up to twice their move value, not their charge value, when aligning to the spearhead. And you must bring as many companies into base contact with the enemy formation as possible. This means that your formation can change shape when it charges. This is shown clearly in this diagram. You can see that the 2 rank formation is altered to a 1 rank formation once the charge is completed. Impacting monsters is slightly different because monsters have round base. A charging spearhead can move into contact with any part of the monster's base it can reach. It's possible to impact multiple targets during a charge. For example, this diagram here, you can see that we've moved into contact with the first formation as part of our charge, but we've also clipped the edge of a second formation. Now what happens to happen, that second formation has to swing, pivot into line to come into contact with the attacker. So that would be legal. This here would be illegal. You couldn't then move your second formation into the flank of the charging formation. Another example in this diagram shows that a clipping effect again. This formation, green formation, has clipped the red formation, and the red formation must pivot into the green formation. But the actual green formation has hit a monster, and the monster's already in base contact, so it doesn't have to move. Okay, I know that sounds a bit convoluted, but they have said in the rules notes on charging the spirits of the game. They've tried to make charging as straightforward as possible, because they say it would just create huge rules overhead if you try to factor in every situation. Thus, things like you're moving your remaining companies, you're saying, well, how can you move up to twice their move value to get into contact, even though the spearhead has to be in charge distance. That's just the way it works, and I can see what they're doing here, because it could be a nightmare otherwise. You'd have bits of formations not being able to make contact, and the way you can hit the just a tiny portion of an enemy formation and it has to pivot into contact with your formation simplifies the charging. Okay, that'll do for charging.